underground. Of the underground. I'm about to go. I'm about to go. Hard as a motherfucker, know who I am. I'm about to go. Hard as a motherfucker, know who I am. I'm about to go. Hard as a motherfucker, know who I am. I'm about to go.
Yo, so I'm here. You'll have to give me a minute. I forgot to do something. I feel kind of dumb. I forgot to capture Mark's window there. So he's got a beautiful empty space where his face should be, and that's on me, not on him. So yeah, we we went a little hard with that intro, but that's just a reflection of kind of how things have been set up by the Dynamo, just in terms of kind of the media that they're putting out there. We kind of wanted to show a little love that direction, and we wanted to get a little gritty with it, a little down and dirty, if you will. Mark, by the way, you can feel free to talk. You are unmuted. They just can't see you yet.
I'm a ghost.
All right. So
Hey, what's
so
up,
Mark,
guys?
yeah. It's been a good week. I don't know about you, Mark, but I'm doing pretty good. I'm gonna try to get you fixed while I do that. So I'm gonna mute myself for just a minute.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So I'm doing good, I guess. But before we start off with anything, Dynamo related or whatever's going on with the Dynamo, I'm a little sad, Sean. So as you know, I was watching the Arsenal game here earlier today. I caught the second half in extra time, and great match, by the way, but it just didn't end in our favor. And world class goal by Aubameyang, man. That guy, ever since he's gotten here from Dortmund, he's been world class. He's been everything plus more than what we've could have asked for. And but man, that's just soccer. That's just football, man. You can score a world class goal like that and then miss a 2-footer at a wide open net.
You
The
know what's
next.
funny? The team that Tottenham knocked out in the group stage in the Champions League is Olympiacos, and for them to go and knock out Arsenal out of Europa League, that was
Man.
it got me right in the heart, man. Got me right in the heart in the best way possible.
Well, I'm glad you're joining, man. But it's just that's been Arsenal the last couple of years, man. That's just been Arsenal the last couple of years, and it's funny because obviously all the talk and chatter that we've been having on Twitter with people going back and forth about the ownership of the Dynamo, but man, to, it's one thing when your owner isn't the wealthiest owner in that league, obviously like Brenner here is in the Dynamo, but it's another thing when you have an owner like Kroenke in Arsenal who is wealthy, who's the owner of multiple teams throughout different leagues, multi-billionaire, and yet we have a team in Arsenal who's barely in the top half of the league, and obviously it's frustrating. So I mean, count your blessings sometimes because you think sometimes you got it bad, but there's other places that have it worse. And I mean, I'm not saying that that Arsenal is drowning by any means, but it's one of those things where like it would be one thing where I can see the frustration level growing to a whole nother level if Brenner was a multi-billionaire and he didn't spend money, you know. But obviously that not being the case, I understand people's frustrations, and then I guess we'll just go straight off into that and roll into that. That obviously a lot of y'all have seen our no George, no, Arsenal does not equal LA Galaxy, far from it. But yeah, if y'all been following us on Twitter, obviously at Gen Orange Radio, at Sean Ringrose, and at Chess Segovia, we've been going back and forth, and that's what we do. We conversate with the fans, with the supporters out there. Regardless of whether or not you agree with myself or Sean or with our point of view, or we don't even agree with yours. But it's the thing about it is that we're all fans, we're all supporters of the Dynamo, and that's one of the reasons why we all link up. you know, if you look at my search button on Twitter, the top 5 searches is hashtag hold it down, hashtag for forever orange, Houston Dynamo, hashtag this is Gen Orange out on this one of the hashtags I'm trying to get out there and push for us and things of that nature. And obviously other people have the same results on their search bar, I'm sure, on Twitter, because obviously once we start talking about certain things, and it's funny because I put out a little video that fell on my timeline on my personal account at Chesegovia about some guy comparing millionaires to billionaires. And he used the example in grains of rice. And I think it was something comparing between Michael Bloomberg and Bernie Sanders. But obviously, I put it, the billionaire being obviously Arthur Blank and Atlanta United, and the millionaire being Gabriel Renner and the Houston Dynamo. And I put it because visually, that video shows the huge advantage a multi-billionaire has to a millionaire, you know? And if for those who haven't seen the video, either myself or Sean will retweet it out here in a bit, so that way y'all can take a look at it. But that video, it shows the huge difference between a millionaire and a billionaire in grains of rice. And obviously, when you have that disadvantage financially, there's a lot of ways ways and reasons why teams like Atlanta United, like Toronto, like LA Galaxy, like LAFC are able to do what they do at this current stage, as opposed to what the Dynamo are able to do financially, as far as bringing in players or other things of that nature. What do you think, Sean?
I mean, I definitely agree. I spent some time writing up what I feel like is a dissertation on the topic. I didn't intend for it to end up a page and a half, but hey, when you start typing and you're rolling, and I know Darby knows how that goes. When you got an article or you got something that's on your heart and you start writing about it, you can't stop typing until it's done. It's just I've been there. But look, guys, we're all passionate fans and we all have opinions we share that are going to be different. It's okay to disagree and it's okay to have a different opinion on how the club should be run. There's currently a trend in MLS which has many of the top clubs spending significantly more on specific roster slots than other teams in the league. This has led those who follow the league to assume that is the only way that can work to build a club. Now, some passionate fans may take umbrage with that statement and would say while the Dynamo intend to build through the academy, they have not done well enough to date to bear that out. And by this supposed fact, therefore, the Dynamo cannot gain ground on those top clubs in MLS without spending significantly more money on those same roster slots. I personally do agree that Dynamo ownership have failed the club in general over the last 4 or 5 seasons. However, I do believe there are positive signs of what I would consider a turnaround. We're seeing a renaissance of sorts with the academy, and evidence of that is as close as Marcelo Palomino signing a homegrown after going overseas initially to ply his trade. There's also a fantastic player in the system currently who should likely sign a homegrown contract in the next 1 to 2 seasons in one Danny Rios, someone Mark is very familiar with. We've seen an understanding by ownership that previous coaching regimes weren't good enough. Certainly, there was success under Wilmer initially, but his lack of tactical awareness in matches and the loss of the locker room put the club in a position where continuing with him at the helm would not yield positive results. And following their release of Wilmer, they did their homework and hired a coach many were surprised was not already a head coach in MLS. And let's talk about that for just a second, because in the NFL or the NBA, some of the most sought after and most hyped coaching hires are from the NCAA ranks. Those coaches are just as unproven professionally as Tab Ramos, some might say less proven professionally, and yet somehow Tab isn't given the same benefit of the doubt those NCAA football and basketball coaches are afforded. Sure, he still has to prove himself, but let's not knock ownership for trying him out. We've also seen the club invest more money in the offseason. And no, it isn't the same as what those top 5 or 6 clubs are investing in 2 to 3 players, but it is a marked improvement season over season. We're seeing an energy among most fans right now, even if there is a vocal minority that would have us believe otherwise. Some might say, well, that's just your small circle of fan friends, but I wonder how the opposite isn't true for those they speak with regularly about the Dynamo. We're seeing supporters groups putting forth a bit of a united front, which has lasted longer than any efforts previously. Further, we've seen new supporters groups rise up, and while some might feel inclined to insist there's no way they can be grassroots because they're so well organized and they have a slickness about them, I simply point to the very clubs those same people want the Dynamo to emulate in Atlanta and LAFC specifically. How can those groups be viewed as authentic, yet the Surge or Bandera Negra not? The reason some of us who believe strongly in the positives we are seeing in our beloved club get heated during these discussions is there always seems to be the same individuals jumping into the discussions so they can make their dissatisfaction heard. They seem, whether it is actually the case or not, to inject their dissatisfaction at any opportunity they get. These same people like to hide behind anonymous Twitter handles or largely anonymous soccer message boards. Yes, you know the ones I'm talking about. That's cool. I mean, hey, you do you. But just know that I'm here, showing my face, letting people know who I am, because I stand behind my opinions. And with that, no more talk about that. Moving on.
Great. I mean, you put it really good, Sean. I mean, obviously, you and myself, I speak for me personally, and obviously, I think you probably fall under this same umbrella as I'm about to say. We have a love for the team, as those guys do as well. There's no doubt in my mind that they love the club and they want to follow the club and all that great stuff. We just choose to do it in a more optimistic and positive manner. It's a roller coaster ride. Any team, any league, any sport, the clubs are going to have ups and downs. How you go through those downs really show the type of fan you are. I mean, and like I said, some fans love harder than others, and that's fine. And some fans are only there during the good times, and that's fine too. I understand completely. Everybody has a different level of fandom. I mean, I remember the days when when Minute Maid Park only had 5,000 people in there, and you paid the cheapest ticket and you sit anywhere. Nobody was there to bother you. They were just happy that you were there watching the Astros lose 100 plus games for 3 seasons. But now now everybody wants to be there. It's the thing to do. They want a championship. And they're regarded as one of the best clubs in the league year in and year out now. And it's one of those things where everybody can be with a club when they're riding high, winning championships, filling up the trophy case and all that stuff, and marquee players and blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera. But when the club or the team is down, because it happens with everyone. I don't know one club in the history of any sport that has sustained a level of success during a period of time, during an extended period of time without having a couple of down years. That includes Real Madrid, that includes Barcelona's, that includes New York Yankees, that includes, whatever other sport you can think of. And it's crazy because, I was talking to somebody on Twitter, we were having a chat, and we were talking about the differences between the pay structures as far as the payroll for MLS, and in this example, we're using the NBA. So every team in MLS is able to use every mechanism available to them, whether it's GAM, TAM, the DP slots, all that stuff, right? So every team uses those mechanisms, but there's no penalty for the teams that have the billionaires to go outspend everybody. It's not like the NBA where you have a cap hit, and then you have a luxury tax hit. Once you pass that luxury tax, now you start sharing money to the other teams that go to the other teams, and it's one of those things where if MLS had that, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't. MLS shouldn't do that, because MLS is not necessarily competing with the leagues here locally in the United States. They're battling the leagues around the world. This is a global game. So you can't put a cap like that if you're expecting to compete globally in the sport of soccer. So I'm not. Trust me, I want to repeat myself. I'm not saying that they should put a luxury tax hit or cap on MLS teams, but that just shows the difference between when you have an owner like an Arthur Blank who is willing to invest on the first team and go out there and bring in the star players and bring in the talented players that cost 7-figure transfer fees, as opposed to where we have to go invest in the academy and develop our guys and hope that a couple of those guys can develop into good enough players to where they can show their skill out and help us out in MLS. Neither way is wrong. It all depends on what what you have available to you as far as resources. But you know, I understand the frustration with those guys that they want the owner to sell if he can't keep up and this and that. And I understand. Trust me. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to y'all and say that I wasn't frustrated for a little bit. Because yeah, I hate it when people would tell me, well, yeah, you can't spend the money because you don't have the money. Okay, then you then sell the team, whatever. But if I kept that mindset, that same negative energy, nothing comes good out of it. So I decided to change my perspective on it, and and understand that the Dynamo have dug themselves a deep hole with all these losing seasons and all these all these head coaches they hired that went nowhere. Like, we had it really really well for the first 8-9 years of this franchise existence under the Kinnear era. And unfortunately, because it went so well for so long, we fell back. We fell behind a lot of teams and then when Kinnear and all that stuff went away, we were so behind the times that it just took so long to get back. And then it didn't help that we went through 4 head coaches and none of them really took us anywhere. Aside from the playoff run in 2017 and the U.S. Open Cup Championship in 18, right? So I mean, it's just one of those things where we dug ourselves a hole, and now we're trying to climb out of it. And I think this season's the first season where we're actually progressing outwards instead of going deeper and deeper, deeper in that hole.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, absolutely, 100%. I mean, it was brought up in chat. At some point, not spending money puts a significant hindrance on the club. No matter how much academy players you have coming through the system, at some point you're not going to be able to compete with the Agueros of the world. And I don't argue that fact. I don't think that should ever be a point that is argued or a point that could be argued. The thing that we're trying to kind of point to here, the thing that I've been really adamant about, especially lately, is that, look, this ownership, as they're not going to spend that same amount of money. So, moaning and groaning about it isn't going to change anything. There was a period last season where I was pushing for the idea of do our part, as a kind of thing where everybody kind of pitches in and does what they can. And that, look, there are things that we control and things that we can't control, and things that we wish we could control. And one of those things we can't control is ownership and how much they spend. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter how much we whine about it. It's not going to change. I really do genuinely wish that he would spend more money. I wish the ownership group would put in another 3, 4, 5, 10, $15 million, and hey, let's go get one of those top players, elite players in the world. But on the flip side, you're going to have that player 2 to 3 seasons, whereas an academy player, you're talking 10, 12, 15 seasons if the players are good enough. But with that said, because ownership's not going to spend that money, I choose to put my effort and my time into stuff that's going to be positive. I choose to focus on things that I can control. Me showing up to matches, me participating in chants, participating in supporters groups, me being involved and being engaged when the front office are offering opportunities to meet with front office personnel, whether that's an after open practice, open, a bar, hang out at a bar with front office personnel, even at the highest executive levels. I'm going to take that opportunity because that's me engaging with him. That's me getting a chance to sit down and talk to him, or stand up and talk to him and take shots, as the case may be. It's a matter of, I know what I have access to and what I can control, and the salary is just not one of them. I don't and can't control that, and the more positive that I have been, the more positive those around me have been able to be, and it has created, it has created a circle of positivity as opposed to this, the circle of negativity that, that Jay used to talk about all the time when he would come on the show. It's one of those things. I mean, I can't. This offseason has proved to me, without beyond a shadow of a doubt, that there are those out there who are just as positive as I am. There are those out there who are just as happy to have the season back as I am. There are those who are willing to overlook the fact that our ownership's not going to spend, millions upon millions upon millions of, upon millions on a DP player, and they're still willing to cheer the team on and, accept the fact that, our goal season over season is going to be to try to make it to the playoffs and see how deep a playoff run we can make. Now, that's not to say I don't want that. That's not to say that I don't want to see an MLS Cup run, or I don't want to see consistent MLS Cup runs season over season. But I've accepted the fact of what's in front of me. It's the old adage of, help me to accept the things I cannot change, and I've accepted those things, and I've accepted that they are the way that they are, and I get frustrated when those things are circle of suck. Thank you, Darby. I get frustrated when I continue to see those things thrown back at the things that I've already accepted as being what they are, that I cannot change them. I get frustrated when those things are thrown back as reasons why this team can never be good again, or reason why this team, the positive things that this team are doing, the club are doing, are not good enough. And the fact, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, and just to just kind of piggyback off what you're saying, Sean. I mean, it's not to say that myself or Sean don't have a limit. I mean, everybody has a limit, right? And hopefully I'm hoping that it never gets to that point where I'm just so frustrated with my hometown club that I'm just like, man, forget this. It's one of those things where I understand the frustration, losing after losing, and it's crazy because you look at from the landscape of things with Houston, when we haven't had that many, I guess, sucky seasons from our other sports franchises, right? The Rockets have made the playoffs the last 30 of the last 33 years, which is a phenomenal run, right? The Astros, obviously, what they've done the last 5 years, it's phenomenal, right? Even the Texans, they keep winning division titles and keep going to the playoffs, even though we can say a lot of things about the Texans, but it's a winning culture, I guess, over there, So, but obviously, like I said, we saw what a winning culture does for this squad and this franchise. I mean, the first 8-9 years we had that, right? And we were the cream of the crop. But like I said, how I stated earlier was that we had such a good long run that we kept going with the same system, and we didn't evolve along with what was going on with MLS, to the point where when that time finished, we were so far behind the 8 ball that I'm not surprised that we fell off the way we fell off. I mean, and granted, I mean, we had some stints of success here. Obviously the playoff run, and then the U.S. Open Championship Cup run. I mean, when so it's showing that we do have the talent, and we have the team, the players in the squad that can do and can take us to the level that we want to get to. But it's just all getting together. You gotta Matt, you gotta get everything aligned. Everything has to be aligned with front office, with the coach, with the players. One of those things is less than the others, and your squad's doing crap. Look at a team, since we're over here talking Premier League. Look at a team like Manchester United. you know, squad full talented. Alex Ferguson is in the front office, but the coach is the coach. I mean, he's doing what he can, but I mean, for some reason, the players don't abide to his system, or don't, or just he's muted, or whatever the case is over there. And it is what it is. All those three things have to be aligned for a club to be successful. And like I said, if one of those things does not align with the other two, you're going to have these things. And unfortunately for us, the last 5-6 years after the Kinnear era, we've had no luck on managers, and that's what it's been.
Exactly. And, look, I mean, I've been a fan of this team since literally day one. I was in 2006. I was in Robertson during
There too.
one or two of the playoff matches. I wasn't there the whole season, but I attended.
Yeah.
And I attended in 2007 during the playoff run, and I've attended other matches, plenty of matches since then, and became a season ticket holder in 2010, I would say, maybe 2011. Nah, I became a season ticket holder in 2013 or 2012 when the stadium opened. I went ahead and committed to that. So real quick, a couple of things that came up in chat that I really felt like throwing out there because it was pretty funny. Somebody asked if Jay has deleted his Twitter. The answer to that is yeah, he has dealt with some pretty, really significantly toxic stuff on Twitter, and I can't blame him. Jorge says, y'all won't like to hear this, but minority owners are put up $1.5 million to the mini soccer pitches around the city, and that's true. That's $1.5 million that was spent on, on building the community and the culture within the community. And it all ties into what they're doing with the academy. It all ties into kind of the focus there, and it's an organizational approach as opposed to just strictly a sports team approach.
See, and and speaking on that, you got to think about it. $1.5 million. I don't know how many soccer pitches they opened, right, with that, but let's say they opened 10 soccer fields, right? Those 10 soccer fields are going to provide the Dynamo opportunities to see 20 clubs at any given time play against each other, kids from our backyard who they can scout and bring in and bring into the academy, hopefully develop them, and hopefully they make the Dynamo first team, right? That's what that 1.5 million does. 1.5 million to the first team. What does it do? I mean, first and foremost, I mean, you're not really bringing anybody worth noting with a $1.5 million transfer fee, right? Obviously, 1.5 and wages for the year. I mean, yeah, you can get a decent TAM player nowadays. A very low end DP player, but does he really give you the same impact? I mean, because like I said, you can bring a player in, but if the player doesn't fit, the culture doesn't. I mean, point example. The first two seasons of Kubo Torres, they invested in Kubo. They spent the money to bring Kubo in here, but it didn't work out. So 1.5 million, depending on the way the ownership felt it was needed to be spent, it just depends on what they're trying to achieve. And obviously we're seeing that they're trying to invest more in the youth game because they're trying to get players from our background and their backyard to join the academy, because the academy was such a I don't, for lack of a better term, such a disgrace until Paul came in, and it's been wonders what he's done the last 18 months or almost 2 years now that he's been here. So
I wanna touch on the soccer pitch thing real quick. There's Jorge kind of said it was the plan is to open 3 per year for 5 years, so that's 100,000 per pitch. So that's 300,000 per year. I mean, that's not a huge investment when you're talking, millionaire essentially. But you also have to remember that's 100,000 per pitch, so that's 300,000 per year. That's not a small investment when you're talking about a minority owner. And beyond that, that's not the only thing that ownership has done or is doing to try to improve, again, the focus on the culture of the club, the culture of the city, the culture of soccer in the community, and the culture of the local community. And the fact is, you look at an Atlanta, or you look at an LAFC, or you look at even a Portland or a Seattle, or if you really want to focus, you look at a Portland or Seattle, and what makes those fan bases so strong is the fact that that culture was developed decades ago. We're talking 2-3 decades ago, in the early '90s. That culture was being cultivated, and was being built at that time. So when they came into the league, both of those clubs came into the league, they already had a significantly established base and culture from which to build from. And because they had built that culture and built it with the local kids and with the local community, in 15-20 years, when they became an MLS franchise, those kids that had come up through their academy in the early years, they were now professional players, or they were borderline professional players. And it was still 5 to 10, 5 years after they joined the league, that they started to see the real benefit of their academies. So what I'm getting at with that is, these initiatives, they're intended to truly build that culture across the city, within the soccer community here in Houston, to allow that culture to create and cultivate new players that would otherwise maybe go with other sports in the city. And the fact is, here in the city, let's be real, the first thought for most kids is football. The second thought is baseball. The third thought is basketball. And that, of course, depends on where they are in the city. And then maybe somewhere down the line, it becomes soccer. And what the Dynamo hope happens at some point is that soccer moves up to the third or the second or even the first slot. And that's going to take time. That takes a commitment to build that culture. It takes a commitment to build that development pipeline, to build that development system that actually works. And to expect that Paul Holliker, who's only been here for one full season and now part of a second season with the academy, is going to have such a major impact in that short period of time that we should already be seeing the benefits of it. That's not how that works. And we have to remember that hole that we're trying to, or that the club is trying to dig themselves out of right now, is a hole that was so deep that it had started before Brenner and company took over. It was started during the AEG years. And now I've had people say, well, during those years, it was the minority ownership that were balking at the idea of bringing in higher priced players. I don't have a problem with that. Again, it's all based on what they can afford to do and what makes sense for the club. Sure, there was an opportunity to bring in Clint Dempsey. That's not going to necessarily change the fate of the organization in 1 or 2 seasons. That's a long-term investment for Clint Dempsey, who at that time was already 35, 36 years of age coming into the league. Maybe 34 or something like that, but he was aged. So it's about wise investment, because our ownership don't have deep pockets. Someone made the point of, well, Arthur Blank can spend billions of dollars. You're exactly right. He can spend billions of dollars because he has billions of dollars to spend now, or millions of dollars to spend. And so when he's looking at, and a perfect example is the Jurgen Damm situation, where the Dynamo were interested. The player was interested in potentially coming to the Dynamo, but they couldn't reach an agreement on basically how much he was going to get paid and concessions that they were willing to pay for and give to. The reason why the Dynamo can't do that, but then on the other hand, Arthur Blank and Atlanta can, is because Arthur Blank can afford to spend a little more on those concessions. He can afford to throw a little extra money. Whereas the Houston Dynamo don't have that luxury. They have a set amount that they can afford to spend on certain players and certain roster slots, and that's it. And if that player doesn't accept those terms and doesn't accept what they can afford, then that player is not gonna get signed. It's as simple as that. It's not a difficult equation to work out. And again, it all comes from the fact that teams that have ownership groups or ownership owners that can spend millions and millions of dollars on a player, and they can afford to take more risks. It's a big difference. That's the point I'm making with that.
No, that's totally agree. Like I said, I mean, it's one of those things where we can go back and forth and around in circles, with the positives and the negatives of how everything's happening. But myself, I just, you know what? I'm gonna go on a blank canvas. We got a new coach. It's a new season. It's a new beginning. So let's start from scratch. Let's go and work our way upwards. No more with the this is in my opinion. No more with the negativity. No more with this. Now, we can follow that up at the end of the season and see what happens. I mean, if Tab totally turns out to be a bust and and all this stuff and whatever, I mean, we can talk about it afterwards. But it's the beginning of the season, a fresh start, you know, new horizons, new beginnings. So let's be positive, man. So I think we spent enough time on that for today. Sean,
For sure.
what do you think?
For sure. So we did a thing this week, and technically started it last week, but nobody did it until this week because we were all busy.
We did a thing.
We did a thing. We all sat down, and by all of us, I mean myself, Mark. I looped in Cisco because, like I said, his predictions usually tend to be fairly close on the money. And we looped in Callow since he's helping to moderate the chat. We thought it would be a good perspective to allow him to give his predictions. In no way, shape, or form can anybody hold these predictions against us. If the team ends up bombing completely and these predictions are totally off, then I mean that's okay. It happened. We'll deal with it then. But let's see. We've got Cisco, Mark, myself, and Callow. So just for everybody's kind of giggles, total wins on the season. Each of us. Cisco has us winning 15 matches. Mark has us winning 16 matches. I have us winning 13 matches. Callow has us winning 18 matches. I will let people know I also popped this up in the Surge chat place as a way to allow Surge members to predict as well. And I'm not going to name names, but there was a specific individual who has the Dynamo in his predictions winning 20 matches. Yes, that would be Jorge. He put
shot
his name
himself
on it.
out.
He put his name on it. I mean, if the Dynamo win 20 matches this year, I will gladly rip up my predictions and be happy about it. I ain't got no problem with that. But I definitely don't see the Dynamo winning 20 matches this season. I mean, that's a hardcore prediction, Jorge, and I know you got your reasons and you're feeling positive right now, and that's great. I just definitely see the summer window. That summer period is just rough, man.
For other guys that have been talking on Twitter about dyeing their hair blonde, if I guess Dynamo will make the playoffs or if they win the MLS Cup, they should have Memo do it for them. If
it was Christian who said he would have Memo do it if Memo wanted to. He said it on Twitter. He even included us in the tweet too, which is pretty funny.
Okay, yeah, I haven't had a chance to really look at the Twitter the last couple of hours, but yeah, man,
that popping today.
Yeah, I keep getting the notifications, but yeah, man, I mean it's crazy, man. 20 wins. That's being very optimistic, George. I mean, I don't even think LAFC won 20 games last year. Did they? I'm not sure.
I'm gonna look it up while you go ahead and stall.
Yeah, man. But I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say that I was really intense and looked at every scenario and every obviously element towards and variable towards these matches when I was selecting them. I was kind of just going based off the teams that I know from last year, and obviously including the additions said team might have made or subtractions that they might have had during the off season. And obviously there's a lot of changes in MLS this off season. And I think it's one of the busiest off seasons that MLS have had in recent memory, obviously because just a lot of different factors. I mean, just MLS clubs willing to spend more and not only just spend on just players or recycling players within the league, but bringing in players from different leagues. Obviously, I see. I think I've seen a meme, quote unquote meme out there that it's not Liga MX no more; it's Liga MLS. With as many Mexican players that have come over here from Liga MX this offseason. And obviously notable European players as well. And obviously with the two new franchises that have opened up with Nashville being in the fray and obviously Inter Miami as well. I have opinions of how both franchises are being run and how they're going to fairly do. And you'll see that in my results once we go through them. I don't per se think that Nashville's going to do too well this season. I think there's going to be another FC Cincinnati. We'll see. And the thing with Inter Miami, although they do have a lot of talent and they have I think one of a really, really, really good coach out there. it's one thing to have those players on paper, but can they mesh and have the chemistry to get it all together and align and do what LAFC have done and Atlanta United have done in the past. So I guess we'll see. We'll see. I mean, like I said, it'll be interesting to see how these matches go win, loss, and draw, because it's going to be quite entertaining.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. So 20 wins would be good enough for second in the league last season. LAFC had 21 wins, 9 draws, and 4 losses. They did have 72 points, so that's a pretty phenomenal season. I mean, that's 63 points just in wins alone, and then 9 draws. I mean, they only lost 4 matches throughout the entire season.
That was an incredible season. I mean, it's for shame. Like the LAFC season is kind of like the Warriors season when they went 73-9 but no championship. It was a great season. I'm not gonna lie, because I mean, obviously LAFC was on national TV. Was the national televised game a lot during the season, so I got to watch it play quite a bit during the season. But they're a fun team to watch. I'm not gonna lie here and take anything away from them. They're a fun team to watch, and they're really well coached. So
Absolutely. So, like I said, let's go through the actual record prediction. We got Cisco with a 15 wins, 8 losses, 11 draws. Mark with 16 wins, 9 losses, 9 draws. I think that's fair. I got 13 wins, 9 losses, 12 draws. And Callow has the astonishing 18-8-8 record going with that. So that puts Cisco on prediction of 56 points total. Mark with 57 points total. Those are pretty close. Me with 51 points total. And Callow with 62 points total. Which, again, would be tied for... Actually, it would be technically third in the league last season. New York City ended up with 64 points with an 18-10-6 record. Atlanta had an 18-4-12 record. Second and third place in the West had Seattle with 16-8-10, and Real Salt Lake was 16-5-13.
No, but Sean, Callow has them going off in a blazing start. 8 straight wins, or 7 straight wins.
7 straight wins. Yeah, I got it right here.
Yeah, I mean that's a blazing start off of Callow. Man, Callow is the most optimist of optimists.
I mean, we talked about it last week with the 10 matches to start the season. Some of those matches set up pretty well, and then I feel like some of those matches don't set up as well as I'd like. But on the flip side of that, the news came out today that the match on April 4th, which is our 5th match of the season against Portland, has been moved back to a 7:30 start from a 3 o'clock start. So that'll be nice because that'll be more of our kind of standard start time. Which does tend to play well for us. Now, there's runs in the season where we're talking the Dynamo have a run at the end of April and the beginning of May where they get 3 days of rest after one match, 3 days of rest after that match, and then they get a full week after that. There's a run at the end of, or the beginning of April, which is a run of 4 days rest before, 3 days rest after, 3 days rest after. So 3 matches in just a little over 10 days. That's a lot of matches.
Yeah. Cisco says that it was tough for him because he honestly didn't know how the Dynamo would perform on the road on the tab. But obviously, going through these looking through these results that we picked, we're thinking that they're going to be a better road team. Obviously, because I mean, you can't be much worse than what the Dynamo have been the last couple of years. So and like I've stated in prior shows, the Dynamo have had a numerous amount of times where they could have won plenty of road games, but they just let it go by the last 10, 15 minutes of the game. I mean, just collecting points on the road is going to be enough to help the Dynamo and push them into the playoffs. I mean, it's one of those things where yeah, maybe you're just getting a point or draws on the road, but those points add up. And you'd be surprised how much they add up quickly, after a season finishes.
I mean, their record last season was 12-4-18. That's 18 losses, by the way. They have it where the draw is in the middle. So it's 12. The way I'm doing it, it would be 12-18-4. So a 12-18-4 record put them at 40 points on the season. But the thing is how many of those 18 losses were draws going into the 75th or 80th minute, and then we just gave up the goal and they went from a draw to a loss. So looking at road predictions, Cisco actually has us at a pretty comfortable 2-8-7. I don't think that's a absurd record to have on the road. I mean, that's only 2 road wins, which is
Hey, Sean. So you're doing win, draw, loss, or win, loss, draw?
win, loss, draw
Okay, hold on.
for each stat line.
Okay.
And then road record. Sorry, 2-8-7. So that's 2 wins, 8 losses, 7 draws, which is good enough for 13 points on the road. Mark, you have us at 4-8-5, 4 wins, 8 losses, 5 draws, which is good enough for 17 points on the road. I have us with a 3 wins, 9 losses, 5 draws on the road, which is good enough for 14 points on the road. And Callow has us at 4 wins, 8 losses, 5 draws, which is good enough for 17 points on the road. So looking at mine and looking at Cisco's, I mean, we are pretty similar, for the away record there in terms of points, not necessarily the true record, but in terms of points. And what is interesting about that is last season the Dynamo actually only nabbed 6 points on the road. So I've got us doubling that plus an extra 2 points. Cisco has us doubling that plus an extra point. So anywhere from anything, getting double those points on the road already puts the Dynamo to a significant advantage on the season. So that is definitely helpful to say the least. And then if we can turn some of those losses that should have been draws back into draws, that ups those point totals significantly. So what else you got for me, Mark?
No, and not just converting the losses into draws, but I mean, there was a couple of games on the road, and one specifically, and I know against New York FC, where the Dynamo were winning and they just let it go in the last couple of minutes, and that's a road win. That goes from a 3 to a 0, not even a 1. It goes from a 3 to a 0. Because I think they were beating them 3-1, no 2-1. I'm sorry, and then New York FC came and scored 2 late goals on them. So
here's the thing: we were 2 wins, 0 draws, 15 losses on the road last season.
Yeah,
again,
that's crazy.
You convert just a few of those losses on the road into draws, and you've picked up probably, even less than half. You've picked up still double what you made points wise on the road last season. So, yeah, 12 to 14 points, it's reasonable. I think even 17 points on the road is not unreasonable. I mean, we all had us at no more than 4 wins on the road, which is again reasonable. I mean, there's looking at teams across the league or across the Western Conference, and we had LAFC who had 8 wins on the road. All 3 of their 4 losses came on the road, of course, and 6 of their draws came on the road. Portland was 6 wins, 3 draws, 8 losses. Seattle was 5 wins, 4 draws, 8 losses. You had a couple more teams that had 5 wins, 1 team that had 4 wins, and then 5 teams that had 3 wins, and then us with 2. I mean,
Sean, what was that road record again? I'm still
last season or
for the Dynamo. For the Dynamo, what was that road record again?
That was 2 wins, 0 draws, 15 losses. Good enough for a whopping 6 points in the league.
Wow, just listening to that. I mean, dude, I don't know if maybe because you're saying it, but just hearing that 2 wins, no draws, and 15 losses. 15 losses on the road. That's pathetic. Honestly, that's pathetic. And it's one of those things where if they just converted some of those wins, those losses into draws, and maybe 1 or 2 into a win or whatever, dude, would we be having all this negative talk right now? We would have been a playoff team last season.
And
we would have been a playoff.
We've talked about this, that a lot of that came from mentality and not being able to go a full 90 minutes in a match. I mean, you correct that's the thing, right? We talk about and we hear a lot that this team's not good enough, but we're sitting here looking at the record last season and we're seeing exactly where the team wasn't good enough, and it wasn't talent, it was mentality. And that is something that coaching can address and coaching can fix. Now, is Tab the guy to do that? I don't know. We'll see. I have high hopes that he can be, and he is. But again, you don't know those things until you get into the season. And saying these players aren't good enough, to me, that's a complete and utter fallacy, because there were at least 10 matches last season that we could have either won or drawn if we didn't give up that goal in the final 10 to 15 minutes. At least 10.
Yeah, man. It's I mean, it's still crazy for you to tell me that record. I mean, like and then I would even hate to see what the total combined record for the last 2 years has been. I mean,
Well,
it's
let me throw this at you. Here's one of the more surprising things. Do you want to know what FC Dallas's away record was?
tell me.
3-3-11. 3 wins, 3 draws, 11 losses. It's only
And they
12
were the
points.
last and they were on the last spot for the playoffs, right?
Yeah, and they were the final team to make the playoffs in the seventh spot
I
with
mean,
48 points.
you see, it's not that much of a difference, even though no, just not to hide anything from FC Dallas, but FC Dallas' road record is pathetic too.
Let me put it this way.
But
Let me put it this way. If we get 14 points on the road, which is what I have, and we add that to last season's home record, we make the playoffs at 48 points over FC Dallas. Or well, actually, yeah, we make the playoffs over FC Dallas at that point.
yeah, but just think about it. It's just crazy how mentally weak the team was under Wilmer on the road. I mean, I don't know what the reason was. I don't know if it's I mean, because it's one of those things where like I could understand like a team maybe like LAFC, if they've just been crushing everybody, and they let a couple road games slide underneath because for whatever reason, right, whatever, sometimes you get sometimes you get too confident too and too cocky along the season if you're doing really well. But for a team like the Dynamo, who aside from the first 10 from the first 2 months, 2 3 months of the season where they had the hot start, after that when they were just on the free fall and what they lost like what 11 12 games in a row, dude, there's no reason for you not to be putting 110% on the pitch as a player. And I blame that to coaching because he never once sat the main players, to make an example because he was I don't know if he was just so worried about his job security where he's like, no, I need to field my best 11 or whatever, quote unquote. But even then, he had these weird methods of how he wanted to rest the players, which I never understood. But
Well, and I'm going to tack on to that even further. At home, we had 10 wins, 4 draws, and 3 losses. That was good enough for sixth in the West on its in points in terms of home record. Everybody comparing all the home records. I mean, Vancouver was 5-5-7. They had 5 wins, 5 draws at home. And so I just again, it's not going to take a significant change to improve the team. Now, having said that, I do want to address there is always that thing that people like to talk about, which is the rest of the league have improved. No, specific teams in the league have improved, but that's not to say every team in the league has improved. A lot of teams took a pretty slow approach this offseason and have not brought in a big name player. Some teams did, but not all teams. So there are still teams that are plenty beatable in this league. You mentioned Nashville. I think Miami is going to be one of those teams. Yes, they have a great core of players, but they're a team that can be beat easily enough because they're an expansion team. You
but
don't want to take them lightly, but at the same time, they're definitely beatable. Go ahead.
but we have an MLS. I want to say there's three different tiers, and as far as teams go, right? There's obviously the top tier, the elite, those MLS contenders, which we all know, Atlanta, LAFC, Seattle Sounders, and then you have that middle of the pack teams where they're playoff caliber teams, but I wouldn't be there's no surprise if they miss the playoffs by one or two games or whatever. So I think the Dynamo are somewhere in there, maybe the back end of that second tier from the results of last year, right? Obviously there's the bottom tier, which is your FC Cincinnati's and all other trash out there. But the thing is like, so yeah, there's been a lot of improvement, but like say for example in the top tier, there's been a lot of player acquisitions and improvements because those top tier teams that are improving, quote unquote, know that they have a window for MLS Cup and their MLS Cup contenders, right? So you see your LAFC's improving with the signing of Brian Rodriguez for it happened at the end of the last season, but he didn't play a lot, so this season he's out there. Obviously Atlanta, doing what they're doing. Um, so I'm blanking. Oh, Seattle Sanders, whatever they did. I mean, they're doing whatever they can to make sure they stay in that top tier and challenge for MLS Cup. Now, if we're true to ourselves, you know, the Dynamo in that second tier. So you got to take a look at the clubs that are around the same, I guess, tier as us. You know, FC Dallas. May I even say? I might even throw in LA Galaxy in there because I mean they haven't been all that. You take away a player like Zlatan Ibrahimovic. You know what kind of team was LA Galaxy last season, right? How many games did Zlatan, kind of take over and win for them? But like, but like, you look at those clubs around us. What club, like, what club has really done a lot to really just blow us out the water and really make such a huge upgrade over the Dynamo, where they just gonna pass the Dynamo up like that? I don't think FC Dallas has done anything crazy. I don't see. Like I said, obviously LA Galaxy, the big signing is Chicharito, but I think he's a downgrade from Zlatan Ibrahimovic, right? If anything, I think the person who fills in a little bit of those shoes is probably Christian Pavone, but that's still, we still need to see that. Um, just clubs of that nature. Minnesota United. I mean, Minnesota United, they gave up Quintero to us. Who did they replace him with? I mean, I don't know yet. So I mean, it's one of those things where, yeah, I know that there's been a lot of high profile signings throughout the league, but it's been all scattered. It hasn't been like just this one team just gobbling up players and just making himself an improved team. I mean, it wasn't FC Cincinnati going out there and signing five players that just took their stock all the way up.
A lot of the teams that improved this offseason are from the Eastern Conference, which frankly I don't care. My focus is on taking care of the Western Conference, and really the teams that we have to beat in the Western Conference come down to LAFC, Seattle Sounders, Real Salt Lake, only because they had such a good season last year. Maybe the LA Galaxy, like you said, you can give them a possibility there because of Pavone, but Chicharito, again, they've lost more than they've gained, easily, without a doubt, in my opinion. FC Dallas, I mean, they're again, they haven't done much this offseason at all. Portland Timbers really haven't done much this offseason, and San Jose hasn't done a whole lot this offseason. Colorado's done quite a bit, but nothing major. Nothing that really outright surprised me. And Sporting KC, Vancouver. I mean, you look at the Western Conference. This Western Conference is going to be tight once you get past kind of the LAFC, top team in the league / in the conference. But I still believe this is a wide open conference that can easily be grabbed as a in third, fourth, or fifth place in the league. I mean, in the conference to earn that first home playoff game.
Yeah, aside from LAFC, teams 2 through I don't know how many teams are on the conference now, 13, 14, I think. But teams 2 through 10, they're all right. They're all bunched up in there. I mean, the Dynamo can land anywhere between 2 and 10. So I mean, and it's one of those things where it just, the ball has to roll the right way for the team. We have to do better when it comes to rotation. We have to do better when it comes to fitness. We have to do better when it comes to road matches. Please, let's do. Dude, I don't know if I can do another 2-0 on 15 season. But it's, if we just improve on those 3 things right there, dude, I seriously think that we're going to be a playoff team, and that's why when they ask me, what do you see success being this season? Look, I don't care if they're the last seed in the playoffs. I don't see why they can't make the playoffs this season, just because of the fact that we have basically the same core players. Now, I do think we got a stronger mental player in Quintero in place of Kyoto. Talent-wise, we'll see. I mean, I don't know, because Kyoto is about 5-6 years younger than Quintero, but as far as mental, Quintero is a lot better player mentally than what Kyoto is. So that's an upgrade right there in itself. Our back line, they focused on bringing Cabrera, Valentin, and obviously Benzema from last season to improve the back line. We're going to see how that helps as far as rotation goes, because it doesn't matter if we score 60 goals, but if we're giving up 75, I mean, it's not good at all. So that defense needs to improve. That back line needs to be more formidable and needs to defend better. And I think we improved on goalkeeping. Well, I mean, it's yet to be seen, but I think Marco Merrick might surprise some people this season. So we'll see.
And that's the thing. I mean, they being the negative bunch, like to point that the Dynamo didn't make any real off-season signings, but trading to bring in a player like Quintero is effectively that level of signing. It is that level of player. He is that talented and that creative of a player, and in the right position, in the right role, in the right system with the right coach, he can be a top elite talent in this league with the right coach, with the right system, putting him in the right position. Morrow and Elise and Memo, really, or whoever you want to put on that left side, can be a top player. Tomas can be a better player when put in a position to succeed. Go ahead,
Sean. That whole top player thing. It's a good and a bad in a way, right? Because you have two sides of the spectrum where it can be great, like with how LAFC has with Vela, how Atlanta United have with Josef Martinez. But when you look at those two clubs, it's not just those two players. They have a whole squad around them. LAFC has Rossi. LAFC, well, they had Walker Zimmerman. They had Latif Blessing. They have players surrounding that main player. The same thing with Atlanta United. Barco, Piti Martinez, Almiron before that. Just a buttload of players. But then you have the negative side of the spectrum where you have like LA Galaxy with Zlatan Ibrahimovic, where the first season they got knocked out of the playoffs by Dynamo. Then you have the top scoring person in the league. You had he was carrying that team and he couldn't carry you to the playoffs that first season. And in the second season, they barely make it. I mean, they're bunched up in that group with FC Dallas. I mean, come on, you got the top paid player in the league who comes from world football, who aside from Cristiano and Messi was probably the best player of our last generation, of our last decade. And you're still on par with FC Dallas. Like, if in a way, I can kind of see why ownership is so hesitant to bring a player of that caliber in, because if you bring in a player of that caliber in, you want the team to be that much better, that much more, much more ahead of the pack, because you invested in a player like that. Take Sporting Kansas City, for example. Alan Pulido is their first major signing ever in that club's franchise history, right? Do you think Alan Pulido is the answer that's going to separate Sporting Kansas City away from the pack in the Western Conference? No, I don't think so. I mean, I've watched Pulido play. He scores goals here and there, but I mean, I don't think he's going to be that type of player where he just takes them to the next level. I don't see it. He might prove me wrong. Great. But I don't see it.
No, I agree. I was looking through some statistics. I was specifically looking for a specific player, and I can't find where he ranks in the list. But, I mean, I'm looking at this list of top players, and this is based on WhoScored.com. They do player ratings after every match. Vela's obviously top player in the league. 8.48 rating. I don't think I can argue that. Zlatan was second best player in the league with an 8.0 rating. I really can't argue that. But then you look at a player who you're not expecting to be a top three player, Eduard Tuesta from LAFC, who's their defensive midfielder at 22 years of age. I mean, the guy's a 7.57 rating. He was an absolute beast as their defensive midfielder last year, and he is what unlocked that team to be as good as they were. The reason Bob Bradley had such a great team is because of players like that go hardly talked about by most people, because they're not the ones scoring the goals. They're not the ones, distributing the passes that lead to goals. They're the ones that are stopping counterattacks and creating opportunities for the attack to counter quickly. And for us, we have a player in Matthias Vera that can be that level of talent without a doubt. Lots of people who know what they're talking about talk about Matthias Vera as one of the better defensive midfielders in the league. It's just he had to play so high up the pitch last season because we were playing from behind, or we were trying to protect a lead, and he was having to play super far back. He was never really playing a true center mid
protecting the back line that frequently. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I think it's a little tinkering here and there that the Dynamo need to do to get within the playoff range. Like I said, teams 2 through 10 in the Western Conference are not that they don't separate themselves that much from each other. A couple of good breaks here, a couple of bad breaks here can decide the season whether or not you make the playoffs or not in the Western Conference. That's how tight knit it is. Like I said, aside from LAFC, everybody else, they're right there. We are the pack. Now what we do or what we improve on from last season that we failed miserably on as far as like road wins and 90-minute fitness, playing a true entire game. If we can improve on those aspects and a better improved back line, if we just improve that, if we just improve on that slightly, I don't see us, being that far behind Sporting Kansas City because they signed Polito. I don't see us being that far behind from San Jose because they have Matias Almeida as a coach. I don't see us being that far behind LA Galaxy just because they brought in Chicharito. I don't see us being that far behind. Matter of fact, we might be above those teams at the end of the season. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean,
all right. So
I have faith.
Oh no, I mean, I have, like I said, I have faith in the team. I just know what I know. And I did break this down because I was curious to see, what are we looking at when we talk about turf this season? We only have 3 matches on turf. Hooray. Cisco has us with 1 win, 2 losses. Mark has us with a awesome 0 wins, 3 losses, 0 draws. I have us also with 1 win, 2 losses, same as Cisco. And Callow has us with no wins, 1 loss, 2 draws. So it's clear that we at least respect the fact that turf is not easy to play on. I think across the board.
It isn't.
No, especially when you're used to playing one way or another.
See, and the thing with turf, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Sean, but the thing with the turf is that ball jumps funny and it goes quicker, right? And even though we have speed up top with Elise and everybody, it doesn't bounce the way it's supposed to, like on natural surface or grass, and just that little bit of timing being off can hugely interrupt the pace of the game.
Oh yeah, 100%. So somebody asked earlier where, and I don't know if it was intended to be about that, but Albert Elise was ranked 38th overall total across all players in the league. He had a 7.13 rating. I'm looking to see if I can find Morrow on here.
What was the question?
Pretty deep down the list. Oh, it wasn't a question. I was going through and reading off like the top 5 players in the league according to their player ratings.
Man, and speaking of top players, man, we're gonna have to talk about this top 50 player list that they posted on MLSsoccer.com. Not one Dynamo on that list.
I'm down for it. But look, I mean, we're the underdogs, and until you prove yourself on the pitch, I mean, I actually get where they're coming from. And we say top 50. I mean, you look at some of the players on that list, and you're like, no, I can buy that. That's acceptable that our players are not ranked on that list. But then there's some players on that list. I'm like, how the hell are you calling him a top 50 player?
And on top of that, I mean, it's some players. Okay, look, I understand that the reputation exceeds them, and they expect to do big things for their being this first season or whatever. But but there's some players on here, and I'm pulling up the list right now. Just give me a few seconds, but it's crazy, man. When I know when I first looked at it, when I first saw it, I was like, yo, there's no way that at least one, if not 2, and obviously I'm talking about Manotas and Elise, shouldn't be on this list, And it's just crazy to me. Like Manotas for sure should be on this top 50, I think. At least I can understand why he might be one of the first players out because the last 2 years he had fantastic first halves and then he drifted away the second half of the last 2 seasons. So I can give you that, but I mean Mauro, dude, 19 goals and then 12 goals last season, back-to-back seasons. Obviously, it's not the same level as Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Joseph, but I mean, but again, this goes back to look how much they're paying per goal with those two players as opposed to Mauro Manotas. And look what's around Mauro as opposed to what's around Joseph Martinez. If Mauro had Almiron and feeding him the ball, you don't think Mauro would have more than those 19 goals he had in 2018? If you know, if Mauro had a player like Pavon on the left side, like Zlatan did last season, you don't think he would have more than the 12 goals he had last season? I mean, it's crazy, man. I don't know. I'm trying to look for the list, but it's crazy, man. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I know that we don't have all the top players in the league and all that stuff, but the fact that we don't have one player on this top 50 list, and I got it right here, it's baffling to me. And I know a couple of you guys out there are like, dude, this is crazy. How could they not do it? Like, you have players. Okay, so Sean, I'm gonna read off a couple of names, and you tell me. Okay.
I'm ready. Let's bring it on.
Okay. So the first one, that number 50, is Brian Rodriguez, the 19-year-old Uruguayan, right? That kid has played a handful of MLS games. How do you have that kid in front of Mauro Manotas?
I have to wonder if maybe when they made that list, there was part of their thinking was Mauro and Elise won't be part of the Dynamo to start the season.
No, because okay, you brought that up.
I'm just wondering because that list kind of feels that way. Like,
okay, I can understand. Okay, so tell me this guy. I'm not the biggest fan. I have some bias against this player, so I mean, I'm not. So don't look at me for this one, but Alejandro Benayon for Philadelphia Union. Do you think he's better than Mauro?
Who again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you the first time.
Alejandro Benayor.
I mean, no. I don't even recognize the name.
He's a U.S. team player.
Oh, Bedoya.
Bedoya. I'm sorry, Bedoya.
Oh man, you were throwing me off with that last name.
Yeah.
I'm like, who the hell are you talking about?
Bedoya.
I mean, no, I really don't.
Okay. Number 40. I think this player is just benefiting off the fact that he has a prolific goal scorer in his team, and he's gaining a lot of assists. Mark Anthony Kaye.
No, he's a fantastic Canadian player. Actually, he does not surprise me. Surprisingly enough.
But I mean, but how much of his stats are panned because of the fact that he has Vela and Rossi?
No doubt about it. He's playing for LAFC. Any player on LAFC is going to be rated higher because they play for LAFC. It's one of those weird things that exists in sports where playing for the right team can be more valuable than the actual talent of the player. Perfect example of that has been Harden the last few seasons for the Rockets in the NBA. The fact that he wasn't MVP the last two seasons is an absolute robbery of the highest level. And so because he plays for the Rockets, because they haven't won a championship since 94, 95, he's rated as a lower player than a Giannis Antetokounmpo or the season before that was Russ. So, it's one of those things. Playing for the right team can mean a whole lot of money and a whole lot of value, even if you're not that valuable of a player.
Number 21 here is the perfect example of too much hype for a first-year player. Alan Pulido, the 21st best player.
There's 5 or 6 players on that list that are players that are coming in this offseason specifically that are rated on that list because they're coming in this offseason.
Yeah,
but the thing is they're not going to be that good. They're not going to be top 50 players. Their statistics will not bear that out.
That's the thing.
Not every player coming into the league is going to be a Zlatan Ibrahimovic or is going to be a Carlos Vela. You're going to have players that come into the league that struggle to adapt to the league for one reason or another. And, it's going to be one of those things where I'm going to laugh when at the end of the season, Elise and Mauro and Quintero all have better statistics than most of these players. And I'm just going to be like, okay, can we rerun that top 50 players in MLS now, please? Okay, thanks.
See, that's something I would be interested in. Like the top 50 players right now and then the top 50 players after the season. You know, that would
Comparing
be
them.
some.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
they won't do it because they don't want to eat the crow. Knowing
Yeah,
that
of
they were
course.
wrong.
Eating crow is something that people don't like to do in any time or place. But I mean, it's just funny to me because like, you know, they have Josie Altidore number 15, which okay, I understand. You know, he's won MLS Cup. He scored goals for Toronto, but I mean, but the guy was not healthy last season. How's he the 15th best player? You know, because I mean, obviously they're not going based off statistics from last season. I mean, because if that was the case, then 15th is too high for Josie. You know, and I got love for Josie. You know, but that's too high. I wish I had the sounder. That's too damn high. You know, I wish I had that sounder.
That's too damn high.
Yeah, there you
No,
go.
absolutely, 100% yes.
You know,
And there's other players. There's young players on that list like Pomacall that from FCD that are not a top player in the league. There's no way he's a top 50 player in the league. That's not to say he's not a great player and he can't become a top 50 player in the league. But statistically speaking, he is not a top 50 player in the league.
Yeah.
And so I struggle with articles like that because it's very subjective as opposed to being objective. They're not using anything to base it on. They're not using statistics.
No.
It's a gut feeling. It's I think this guy's better because he plays for LAFC, or I think this guy's better because he plays for Atlanta, and it has nothing to do with how good the player actually is. I mean, truth be told, if you look at the careers of Mauro Manotas and Albert Elise, they are a top 50 player in MLS. You know, the seasons that they've played in MLS, it's no doubt about it. Now, sure, you can look at things like who's scored where they're showing player ratings and things like that, and there have been games and matches where because of the red card that Elise would get, or because Mauro was quiet because he wasn't getting service, you know, that tended to make the ratings lower. But at the same time, they're still better players overall, and I really wish talent and actual play was taken into account, and not just who do you play for, how much money did you sign for, and you know, are you being looked at by a national team as a senior team starter.
I mean, you know, the top 50 list is basically flooded with Atlanta, LAFC, Seattle, and New York FC, which are the top two teams in each conference from last season, which is understandable, you know. But I mean, that's just basically saying, okay, because you played for the top two teams, you know, everybody here has upper level talent, which is not the case. And come on, this is still MLS, you know. Not everybody on the Seattle Sounders squad deserves to be on the top 50 list, you know, even though they're champions.
Agreed.
But you know, I don't think.
I mean, if you look at the list, there's not as many Seattle Sounders players on there as you'd think, and yet they won MLS Cup.
Yeah.
You know, there is a certain amount of.
Well, well, look at number 3 is Ladero, which he's behind only Joseph Martinez and Carlos Vela, which okay, number 3, that's good. And then you have number 11, which is Raul Rodriguez, which, you know, he's their top goal scorer. And then you have a number 19. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong number here. Number 30, Jordan Morris, and then number 30 to 34, Stephen Fry. So there's, I mean, you know, they're well represented. You know, for being a championship team, obviously. And number 42, they have Joel Paolo, which is their big signing this season from Brazil. I mean, I guess they're expecting big things from this guy. But like I said, it's just one of those things where I guess they basically based it off the merits of we're gonna take the top 4 teams of the league from last season and get like 5 or 6 players from each of those squads, and then sprinkling it in a player here and there. And somebody just forgot to mention that the Dynamo play in MLS.
I mean, there's other teams that were basically snubbed on that list as well, which is a complete travesty. You know, Columbus Crew, they have a ton of good players now, and most people don't recognize how good that team's going to be this season. They actually legitimately scare me this season because of how much they've stacked that roster.
They have 2 players on the top 50.
Oh.
Yeah, Darlington Nagbe, which was at Atlanta United last year.
Yeah.
And then Lucas Celerano, which from Tigres. So
yeah. No, Celeran Rayan, I expect to be a fantastic player his
Oh, yeah,
preseason.
he's gonna be that to be honest, maybe aside from Pizarro and Inter Miami, just because of their comfort level with the coach, I think he's gonna be the signing of the season.
I do too, and like I said, I expect he's going to elevate the level of Columbus tremendously. That's why they scare me, really, because of him and a few other players on that team that were already there. Because he's going to get the service that he needs, and he's playing
No,
with
and he's
Kamara
gonna give
too.
out the
So
service.
yeah, yeah. But it's just that's the way the league is. Every team has at least two or three very talented players, and when you have 30 some 24, 25, 26 teams now, you're going to have a few players that get left off a list like that, and so Cisco asked, where's Pozuelo on the list? Pozuelo. TFC.
Number 8.
Number 8 on the list.
You know who's ahead of him?
Who's one slot ahead of him? I'm sure you'll say it and I'll be like, oh, that's right.
No, I'm sorry. He's number 6. I'm sorry. I was like,
Number 6.
he's snubbed in between 2 Galaxy members. One, Jonathan Dos Santos, which is number 5, which I'm surprised. But for all the crap that he got because of his name, with Giovanni, but he's a really good number 8, Jonathan Dos Santos. But Chicharito's number 7.
Yeah, that one I'm a love when he is not the 7th best player in the league at the end of the season. I'm just saying, it's gonna be great.
So their top 5, it actually sounds surprising. I mean, aside from the top, so I told you the top 3: Carlos Vela number 1, Joseph Martinez number 2, Nicolas Ladero number 3. Maxi Morales, man, people forget because I guess because even though New York FC have the better record the last couple of years over Red Bulls, but for some reason, you don't hear too much about New York City FC, or is it just me?
You really don't, and it's surprising to me because they were the best team in the East last season. They had a fantastic record last season. I think people tend to forget about them because they weren't winning matches by significant goal differentials. They were winning matches 1-0 or 2-0, but doing it consistently.
Or is it because they don't have the big name player like David Villa or Frank Lampard or Andre Pirlo no more?
It's because they don't have a stadium. I mean, that's all it is.
Well, that too. But a lot of people followed them when that big 3 was over there, but they weren't doing as well as they're doing the last.
Damn it, Cisco, jinx on you.
But and Jonathan Dos Santos runs out the top 5, which I think Jonathan Dos Santos might be the best box to box midfielder in MLS. He does play that number 6 role really good.
There's a player for Philadelphia Union whose name I couldn't pronounce if I tried. I want to say he's Swiss or something like that, and he's an amazing player. Literally,
that sounds right.
Yeah, he's an amazing player, and the fact that he's not in the top 5 to me is a travesty. He's not a big name player. He's not a name that you're going to recognize, but the quality and talent that he plays with. I mean, his rating last season was like 3rd best in the league from Who Scored, and that's it's hard to argue. But because he plays for the Philly, no respect at all.
Yeah, but it's just a travesty. No, not one Dynamo.
So let's go back to the predictions real quick because there's more to go through because I broke these down. So I also looked at, because I thought this would be interesting for us to look at. I broke it down by matches in terms of how many wins wins with matches that kick off before 8:00, wins, losses, draws. So Cisco has us with 11 wins, 4 losses, and 9 draws. 9 draws. You have us at 11 wins, 5 losses, 8 draws. So you both are pretty close on those. I have us with 11 wins, 6 losses, 7 draws. So again, very close in those numbers. Callow has us with 14 wins in those, 5 losses, and 5 draws. Now, why did I break it down by this? Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we tend to struggle in games where the start time is later than our normal start time. Our normal start time is anywhere between, either 7 or 7:30 is kind of what I figured. So I also did wins, losses, and draws by matches that start after 8:00. This is where it gets a little interesting for me. So Cisco has us with 4 wins, 4 losses, 2 draws. So that's a total of 10 matches, 4 wins, 4 losses, 2 draws. You have us at 5 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw. I have us at 2 wins, 3 losses, 5 draws. And Callow has us with 4 wins, 3 losses, and 3 draws. And the thing is most of the time those games that are after 7 o'clock are played on the West Coast or in Mountain Time. So it's RSL or Colorado. And
Or LAFC.
Well, that's what I said. It's either the West Coast or those teams right in the middle.
And I think
Mountain Time.
And obviously, those West Coast teams. I mean, you talk about Seattle Sounders, which is the MLS champions. You talk about LAFC, which is the top team in the regular season last season. LA Galaxy, which can, depending on what kind of LA Galaxy they are for this season, who knows? Portland Timbers, who are always the dangerous team. So I mean, I don't think it's too much to do with the time. Honestly, I think it's just the quality of teams that are on that side of the coast.
No, it's not, and that's kind of why I have the record the way I do. It's just it's just interesting to me that when I look at it, I actually take that into account when I'm making my predictions, because of it is difficult as a professional player to change your routine by even an hour or two. Those 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock kickoffs here local time, those are rough, man. As a player, by 10 o'clock, and that is an 8 o'clock kickoff on the West Coast. By 10 o'clock, you're ready for bed. That's 2 hours after you've started. That's like you're already winding down for most matches at that point. And let's not talk about the matches that kick off at noon or 2 or 3 or even 5. Those earlier kickoff times are just as rough because you really haven't even gotten into a rhythm for the day at that point. You're kind of totally out of sync with your daily routine when it comes to match day routines. And I don't think enough people put an emphasis on that. We'll see how much that has an effect. I'm actually going to track this season as well, the actual record as the team plays through the season, and we'll be able to kind of see how those things play out and pan out over the course of the entire season. So, we'll see, but I do think that it probably is going to play a bigger role than most people expect, and that's kind of why I have us where I have us, because I think those types of things and playing on turf and those sorts of things, they make a difference at the end of the season.
No, yeah, I know. I agree. I mean, I know that athletes are creatures of habit, and you mess with their routine even just an hour or in this case 2 hours because of West Coast time compared to Central time. It's a big change, and I understand it. But I also do think that obviously the quality of teams that are over there do have an impact on that as well, because they have some strong teams on that side of the country. So, I mean, well, who knows? I'd be interested to see what the record is against the East Coast teams when we have that, I guess, advantage, since we're an hour later than they are.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that plays a role too. And it's I didn't really take into account opponent in terms of how much earlier are they playing or how much later are they playing than they're used to. But it does play a factor for them as well. So that's why I think sometimes you're looking at. I think when you look at home records, there's a significant reason why those home records always tend to be usually fairly, significant amount better than the away records for every team in the league. And that's because they're playing matches in time zones that they're not used to playing them in, and that does weigh heavily on the player. You end up with a different kind of scenario, I think, in the Premier League. Teams don't play as well on the road in general, even in the Premier League, but it's not as pronounced as it is in MLS across the board. With that said, let's talk about something else real quick. I want to talk about the match on Saturday. I want to talk about facing LA Galaxy to open the season. I want to talk about as much as I really don't want to talk about him. I want to talk about Chicharito. I want to talk about Christian Pavone. I want to talk about other players that can have an effect on this match. I want to talk about Albert Elise not playing in this match.
Let me ask you a question about the match then.
Mm-hmm. Go for
it. Does Chicharito score in his first match
in
MLS?
Hell no. It ain't happening.
Okay, is that just you because you don't or is that
No.
really
The defense is going to be that good this season that he's not scoring on them in the first match of the season. Not happening.
well? I mean, because I do recall you having a 5-3 score line for that first match. So I
I
mean,
did,
you're
but
telling.
none of them are Chicharito.
Okay. You're sticking to your guns.
I'm not saying he won't set up goals, but he sure as hell ain't scoring.
Okay.
Nah, Merritt is going to block that cheap goal. It's going to be a diving save to his right, no, to his left. But a
Then
diving
it's gonna-
save to his left, and he's going to get it before it chips right past the post. Inside
And it's
post.
gonna hit his face and break his nose.
You're fired from this show permanently for that statement. No, I'm just kidding. You better not. We'd be screwed because that would be like at least 10 matches he would be out. You don't play with a broken nose even as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I know.
You spend at least 4 or 5 weeks on the sideline until it heals enough that you can play. But even then, you're playing with a mask, and I don't want to see Merritt in a mask.
Second question. Who scores the first Dynamo goal of the season?
That's going to be. Oh, it's not going to be Morrow. You know what? I'm going to chalk that one up to Memo Rodriguez. Actually,
So Memo's starting then. That's what you're saying.
actually, yes, that is what I'm saying.
Okay. Third question. And this will be the last question. But then we can really get into this matchup for Saturday.
Memo's starting because Elise is not starting. Just to clarify that.
Oh, so okay, that was gonna be my question. Who starts in place of Elise? So you think Memo's gonna start on the right wing side?
No, but I think Quintero does not start out wide. I think they put Tomas on the right, and I think they put Memo on the left. It's my guess.
Okay.
I know that really runs
Okay, so-
counter what everybody
Yeah.
expected, but that's my guess.
Okay. So yeah, that was my question. Who starts in place of Elise?
I said Memo. I already said that. That was going to be your question too. So
Yeah.
asking the chat, who do you think is going to start in place of Elise? With Elise out because of a muscle injury, which I want to talk about that for just a second too, while everybody puts in their expectations of who's going to start in his place.
So
That's
so
the
I'll
same-
tell you.
That's. I was going to say that. I'll let you give your answer real quick, but that was that injury that Elise is dealing with right now. Not to scare anybody, that's the same injury that Cabezas had, 2 seasons ago, that kept him out for a long time.
So I'll answer my questions that I just asked you. Do I think Chicharito will score this game? No, I don't think he will. Now the person I think is going to score, I think Pavon's going to be scoring, but we'll see.
That was my literal mic drop moment. That was totally unintentional. My mic literally fell. I've got it on a box so that it sits higher up, so I don't have to lean over because I'm such a tall guy. Yeah, it fell off the box, and that was that loud crash and noise. So yeah, it was a mic drop moment. Wasn't intending it to be, but hey, turned out.
There you go.
I expect a meme for that, Callow, by the way.
Right. Who do I think is going to score the first Dynamo goal? I'm going to surprise you with my answer. I think Tomas does it.
The first goal?
The first goal. And who do I think is going to replace Elise on the starting 11?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear this now.
So that means, so obviously with Elise out, you have to change the formation up a little bit. So that you can't go the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-2-3-1 that they were doing or what, who do I think? I'm gonna throw it out a limb. I don't know how this would go, but I think they'll play Ramirez and Morrow up front, both of them up front. I want to say they would. I don't know. I doubt it, but I don't know. Something. I was thinking Nico, but I don't know, man. I mean, if this was an opportunity for Nico to get a chance to play on the wing, I mean, it would be. But then again, I don't know. Do you think Nico deserves to jump over people like Memo and all these other guys? I mean, I like I said, I don't know. I mean, I've only seen the games, the preseason games. Obviously, I haven't seen their training. Maybe he's killing out there in training, and he might merit a chance. So who knows? But yeah.
All right, I'm gonna ask some questions now because I expect answers. First, I need your real prediction for the scoreline of this match. Second, I need your bold prediction for this match. And third, I need your super bold, completely ridiculous, never gonna happen prediction for this match.
Okay. My for sure scoreline. 3-2. Dynamo win. My bold prediction. Do you want a bold prediction as far as scoreline, or is like just anything in general for the game?
It is up to you. Bold prediction can be anything. Super, super, super insanely bold prediction can be anything as well.
Bold prediction. Shit. Bold prediction. Mauro hat trick. But then obviously, Tomas scores the first goal, then Mauro hat trick afterwards. My ridiculous, not gonna happen scoreline. Shit, you know what, man? I would love to see a 5-0 scoreline in national television to open up the season against the LA Galaxy. That would be fantastic.
I mean, I would be down for that. I think everybody in the stadium would actually be truly down for that. The chance,
because the thing about like I'm sure you remember, because I remember this vividly when Owen Coyle was the coach and they beat FC Dallas in the second game like 5-0, right? And it was the Texas Derby, and just in those first two games of that Owen Coyle era, because of the first two games, we gave him such a long leash that I was like, man, this is amazing. This team is flowing like crazy, and then to beat our Texas Derby rivals like that, if this started out like that, a 5-0 win against our quote unquote big brother under the new regime of Tab Ramos, I would be interested to see how many people would show up for the next game after that, because of so much hype. Because there's going to be people showing up for that Dynamo game because of Chicharito, unfortunately, right? But how I wonder how it would be to actually capture some of those fans, because they saw such an attractive, high-scoring team in the Dynamo, and to put out the firepower that they did if they won 5-0, or even a 4-1 victory or whatever. Just some attractive soccer out there. How many of those fans they can capture just from that first game, because of the reason that they're there for is not the reason that we want them there for.
No, agreed. So, okay, all right. That was a pretty bold prediction. That's pretty bold, super bold prediction too. Huh? What'd you say? Mauro, that was a pretty bold prediction. So 5-3 was my original prediction. I'm sticking with that for my real prediction, by the way. My bold prediction is, 5-3. My bold prediction is we see a red card from Chicharito in the 15th minute.
Oh, wow.
Of the match, because Kiki's going to get under his skin really early on. Actually, no, I take that back. Vera's going to get under his skin really early on, and he's going to try to make a significant dive in the box, and this will be already after he got a yellow card for some altercation before that, and he's going to get a second yellow and be sent off.
That would put a damper in MLS's. MLS's.
You say that, but remember, publicity is still publicity.
Oh, of course,
of course. That's you say damper, but that would be a hell of an introduction to the league.
It would. It would be.
Let's see. And my super bold, significantly ridiculous prediction for the match is in the 88th minute, Maric is called up. The 90+1 minute, Maric is called up to score a header goal on a corner kick. We haven't had a goalkeeper set piece winner in a long time.
Man, I just watched one the other day on the CONCACAF Champions League.
I meant the Dynamo.
Yeah, okay.
But yes, no, there was one just literally yesterday.
Oh my God, that was
absurd. It was absurd. But it was the most glorious thing I've seen.
A side note. I was going for Alisana because obviously I'm Salvadorian, so I'm trying to root for the home country, in their squad. But man, that's crazy. But anyways, okay. So Saturday's match. From what I've heard, it's only like less than 1,000 tickets left.
According to Glenn, there's only a few hundred left, which is
less than
1,000.
Yeah.
I suspect actually we're closer to maybe 600 left at this point, maybe even less.
So the supporter section So the supporter section sold out officially. So I'm expecting that side of the stadium to be rocking, as I think they will be. Batallon, TA, Banda Naranja, the Surge, all you guys, the independent, supporter groups, all you guys. I expect y'all to be out there and just show out on national television for the Dynamo and for just pride in general to represent Houston. Um, I'm excited, dude. Like I'm excited. It's gonna be that crowd is gonna be crazy because it's just gonna be a packed stadium. It's gonna be live. People are gonna be there for different reasons, but it's gonna be great to get to interact with a whole bunch of people instead of seeing a half empty stadium. And I think I think the Dynamo are gonna step up to the plate and they're gonna hit one out the park.
So I wanna talk about that for a second because it was brought up. More Dynamo fans or more Chicharito Mexico fans on Saturday. I think the Mexico fans are going to show up. They're going to show up in droves, and I think they're going to show up away from the supporters group section because here's the thing: this year in the supporters group section, you cannot be in the supporters group section and wear the opposing team's colors. You have to wear Dynamo colors. So if they're wearing green and red or white, they're getting kicked out of the supporters section by security because they're not allowed to be there anymore. So no longer do we have to worry about fans from other teams somehow managing to get tickets in the supporters section, at least for the first match of the season, at the very least. Those are Dynamo fans, diehard Dynamo fans. And this year, it is kind of half safe standing. They've removed all the seats from the seats, the stadium seating in the supporter section now. So anybody who's in the supporter section has to stand for the whole time. So for that full 90, they're either going to be there or they're going to be up by the bar. And from where I understand that EB is intending the band to be, they're not going to be at the bar either because they're not going to like that. So we're going to see how that goes. I am intrigued to see how Hustletown comes out and how they show off for this first match. It is going to be incredible.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the atmosphere. I'm looking forward just to the whole hype beast, man. It's gonna be cool. Obviously there's gonna be a lot of pre-gaming going around the tailgate with Texania and Banana Naranja. Rodeo go with the Surge, Kings Court Batallon. And then obviously, because it is a national televised game, on Orange Avenue right there by Lucky's Pub, for those who don't know, they'll have Univision and everybody out there doing their thing out there too. So I mean, it's going to be live. The great thing about it's going to be early Saturday afternoon, so you're going to have a chance to go watch some great soccer, enjoy a huge crowd, and then go do something afterwards late at night. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out there and just have a blast, man. And hopefully we're celebrating a Dynamo win afterwards.
Sorry, I'm making a Twitter post real quick. You know how I do.
Oh, okay.
You know how I do. I'm done. I was just had to find the button to click it. That's all. So one thing I want to talk about real quick, we're talking supporters groups. If you want to be part of the March to the Match, this is an official March to the Match organized and conducted by all the supporters groups via Hustletown supporters. You need to hit up Rodeo Goat, Kings Court, or Pitch 25. No, not Pitch 25. Kings Court or Rodeo Goat, or the TA tailgate, or Bandera Negra's tailgate.
Lot C, I think it is.
Huh? Lot C is where both those tailgates are going to be. If you guys want to join that march this season, especially this first match of the season, and make a point and make a stand against the travesty that is Chicharito and MLS, you need to be there before 1:30. I would say try to get to, if you're going to go to Kings Court, try to get there probably closer to 1 o'clock. And if you're going to go to Rodeo Goat, try to get there closer to like noon. But a little later is okay, but noon would be great. And then if you're going to go to the tailgates, try to get there probably around noon as well. I'm sure they're going to kick off pretty early for those. But everybody's doing something for this first match of the season. So, if you've been interested in learning about the supporters groups, or you have questions about the supporters groups, or maybe you feel like the supporters groups aren't authentic for some reason. I don't know who that would be, but I'm calling you out on the air right now.
Those fakers.
If that's the case, feel free to hit up Rodeo Goat and talk to the Surge leaders. They're going to be there live and in the flesh. And trust me, they're not part of the front office. That's for damn sure. And so, yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity to connect with the supporters groups to find out more about them. Just because you march in the match with them does not mean march into and to the match with them does not mean you have to be in the supporters section. You can split off and go to your seats wherever they may be. But I have a request. If you are going to join the March to the Match, learn the chants before you go. If you need a copy of those chants, I would tell you to look on Instagram or look on Twitter. They're out there. And if you really need them and you don't have them, I'm sure you can hit up EB at any point and they'll have them. Also, at Rodeo Goat, we're going to have some copies, some printouts of those lyrics. So if you need to learn them, you can come and learn them with me. I know some of them, but not all of them. There's a couple of new ones I got to learn. So definitely make it out there.
And I also think, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sergio or Jeffrey, if you're on here, or you know, but I think at Rodeo Goat, you'll still have opportunities to sign up to join the Surge supporter groups over there at Rodeo Goat, and I think they're gonna have merch out there, right? Or they're gonna, I don't know if they're having merch for the people who already signed up, but yeah, you can do that. So if you like what you see and you want to sign up right there and then, I think they're gonna sign people up right there and then at Rodeo Goat if you want.
So I'm going to let Sergio answer that, but I will tell you that as I understand it, which can definitely not be correct, the intent is they're going to have, at the very least, going to have scarves available for sale, and then they will be taking Surge memberships there at Rodeo Goat. Also, a note, if you want to get season tickets for the supporters section for the first match of the season, tough luck. All those tickets in the supporters section are gone. Ain't none left. But
you can see it from afar.
But if you want to get season tickets and and be in the supporters section for the rest of the season, hit up Malcolm Andry, who will be at the match, I am certain, and he will be happy to give you a call later to schedule all that and the payments and everything else for that.
Yeah, so Sergio said that they're going to be doing both. They're going to be accepting memberships and selling merch, scarves.
Sergio, do you have the shirts yet? We should not sit here in silence while we wait.
Right. No, yeah. So I mean, regardless if he does or if he doesn't, I mean, it's just so. I mean, it's a good opportunity to, like, if you're still on the fence about joining a supporter group, what great atmosphere to be in, because you're gonna have so many. You can literally do a roundabout around Dynamo State, BBVA Stadium. You can go check out the tailgate with TA and Bandera Negra. Then you can go check out King's Court with Batillon. Then you can go check out Rodeo Go. I mean, if you get there early enough, you can hit every spot and then still have time to go do the activities on Orange Avenue with Univision and whoever else they have out there. So I mean, you can have a full day's worth of activities before 2:30.
Oh, easily. And if you're a Surge member, as Sergio mentioned just now, for members, scarves are $15. Non-members, they're $20. Number two, there is an online Soccer for All 10% discount available for Surge members only. I'm just saying, you don't get that kind of love from the other supporters groups.
Perks,
saying, perks of being part of the group, yo. But no, I mean, I want to address one other thing real quick because I got to say this, right? So the idea that this is that Surge is not an authentic group, and Mark will know this, is completely ludicrous. The reason it has been as well organized and been rolled out as cleanly as it has is because Sergio and Jeff, the two real true leaders of the group, have put in the time and effort. They have busted their asses this entire offseason. Even before the offseason, when they soft launched the group, they were working hard. They were putting in the time, putting in the effort, putting in their own money. Trust me on that one. And they've put in, they've put enough into it that it appeared like it was something the front office was doing. And I can tell you, Sergio takes that to heart as a significant compliment because it has truly been authentic. So the fact that people think that the front office has to be involved because of how slick it's been, that's a pretty damn huge compliment. That's, hey, you're acting like you're an organization that has 20,000 fans rapidly chasing after them type thing. I mean, it's a pretty big deal. That's.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I mean, all hate is a form of complimentary. So I mean, regardless if they think people, they think they're affiliated with the front office, trust me, I'll tell you they're not. I mean, I remember the first time when I got to hang out with both Jeffrey and Sergio. This is a while back. This is, I think, right after.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I think this is like the Dynamo season just ended or whatever, and I think we met up at Jack and Ginger's for for an Arsenal game, and then we went over some. I forgot where I took them to go eat some tacos, and then we were just talking about it, man. You know what they're and I was really inspired by their ideas and stuff like that because I know talking offline with Sean prior time ago, you know, that's how I got to meet both them and Sean too, because I was one of those who I wanted to kind of start my own thing as far as a supporter group because I wanted to see the spirit of Dynamo fans be lifted again and to give another option to fans because I know I talk to a lot of people. I'm a real social guy, so I mean I talk to a lot of fans and I understand the reasons why they didn't choose to go with one or another supporter group or whatever. But but obviously I'm a real busy guy. I got a lot of responsibilities and stuff that I need to do, and I wouldn't be able to put the amount of time and passion that I would want to. And seeing these guys, I mean, young guys doing what they're doing, it's really inspiring, and it's from the ground up, man. So, yeah, these guys are not affiliated with the front office or anything like that because if they were, trust me, I'd be over there like, hey, man, can I get the employee discount? Because these jerseys ain't cheap.
No, they ain't cheap. I want to add to that. The reason why the front office have gone about things the way they have when it comes to the Surge is because of the time and effort that these guys have put in, because of how they've focused and built everything, because of how they've organized everything, because of their approach and because of their passion. Look, passion's infectious. Whether you realize it or not, it is infectious. It is contagious. And it grows and it spreads like a wildfire. And all it takes, as crazy as this sounds, and Jeff and Sergio will speak to this now, all it takes is two people that are committed and engaged. And the difference and impact that they can make is remarkable. And by the end of this season, it is going to be a completely different feeling in that stadium than what we had last season. Hell, I know the first match of the season is going to be that way. But by the end of this season, it's going to be completely night and day difference. And just hats off to Sergio and Jeff. Yeah, those graphics, dude, those are clean. Sergio did some serious work on them graphics. I know that in talking to him, he had probably the first look at that logo was probably 1,000 different iterations at least before he settled on one he liked, and that may be closer to 2,000 really, if he's being honest. It was easily weeks of work that they put into that before they released anything or announced anything at all. But Hustletown, that's a thing that's going to grow too, and all of this is just incredible. What is happening because fans want to get involved, because fans are passionate, and because fans want to see things grow and they're excited again. And it's all at the right time. It's a tipping point and a turnaround point, like I said, to open the show. And I feel like you got to take those positive things and you have to acknowledge that they're positives. Are there negatives? Sure, there's plenty of negatives. But there's positives to go along with them. And we can look at negatives all day long, or we can choose to look at the positives and move forward and move on. And that's where I'm at. We're moving forward. We're moving on into this next season of 2020. And we are literally 2 days away. And it is going to be amazing. It is going to be lit. And I feel sorry for those that aren't going to go because they're negative about things. I feel bad for you. I sincerely do. I really do.
I don't.
Well, I mean, you do you, Mark. But I do, because they're missing out on something that they essentially claim that they want to see and they want. But because it's not being done the way they want it to be done, they don't want any part of it. And that's your choice. That's totally your choice.
Sure.
But with that said, we have 5 minutes left, Mark. So what would you like to talk about for the last 5 minutes? I would like to talk about how miserable Arsenal were today.
Oh, man, come on.
We opened with it. I figured we might as well close with it, too. You start. Hey, okay. I was going to let it go until the very end of the show. You were the one who brought it up, like, to open the show.
Okay, so this is my thing. This is what I was talking about earlier. And I, for those who didn't hear in the morning, I was a little venting off because, for those who know me, I'm a huge Gunner fan. I love Arsenal. Shout out to Sergio, another Gunner fan or whatever as well. But so I was watching the match today, and I caught the second half in the extra time, and unfortunately for us, it didn't go the right way. But it was such a great match, and Aubameyang, I mean, world class player, top notch player, man. Since he's gotten here to the Emirates, I mean, he's been world class, top notch, everything we could have asked for and more, and for him to score such a ridiculous goal like he did, and then to just miss such a easy goal at the end. I mean, that just shows you the ups and downs of soccer. It can go quick, it can go down quickly. And it's a shame because obviously Arsenal have been in a bit of a slump the last couple of years, Europa Leagues and all this stuff, and you haven't had Champions League football in a while. And it's not because of the lack of, players or the lack of fandom or lack of support. It's one of those things where it kind of ties into the situation we have here with the Dynamo, but in a different way, because for those who know, the owners of Arsenal are Stan Kroenke, who also owns, the LA Rams, the Colorado Rapids, and numerous other clubs and stuff around the sports world. So this guy is multi-billion. He has money up the wazoo, right? And it's a shame because, we were in that area where we had Arsene Wenger for over 20 plus years, and we had a lot of great times, a lot of high ups, with him. And I'm very, very, very proud of what he was able to accomplish in Arsenal. But then when it came tumbling down, kind of like similar to what Kinnear at the end of the Dynamo tenure, it came tumbling down, and it came tumbling down quickly. But the difference between the Dynamo and Arsenal is that Arsenal actually has the money to go out there and do things, and unfortunately, that hasn't been the way of the ownership right now. And yeah, so it's one thing to have an owner who doesn't have and can't spend, as opposed to having an owner who can spend but refuses to, because our back line has been rubbish for the last 2+ seasons. And but on the plus side, I think we finally have our true coach. I finally think we've made the right hire in a coach, and I think we have a lot of great young talent. Saka, Guendouzi, Torreira, a lot of good young talent coming up as well. So I'm just excited to see what happens, and hopefully, like I said, we can, especially with this Man City ban, maybe we can get the 5th spot, and maybe I don't know. It's a big ask, but we've been looking good in Premier League the last couple of weeks, so I'm a little hopeful, but we'll see.
Just a little hopeful.
I mean, it's a big step to go. I mean, like, it's one of those things where, like, if you look at the Premier League table, before the Man City ban for the Champions League, that 4th spot has been up for grabs forever, right? No, it seems like nobody wants that 4th and final qualifying spot to Champions League. But now with this Man City ban, now technically there's 2 spots available, because the 5th spotted team is now qualifying for Champions League if the ban upholds, right? So right now, currently it's Chelsea and surprisingly enough, I think Sheffield United is the 5th spot, and but the difference between Sheffield United and Arsenal, which I think they're in the 8th spot in the league right now, is 5 points, I believe, 5 or 6 points, somewhere around there. I have to look at the table, but I mean, we're right there. I know Callow's over here asking if us about to win the league. I don't know.
That would be one hell of a comeback. That's what that would be. I don't even know if that's mathematically, statistically possible at this point.
I think they should focus on trying to not get embarrassed by Man City in the cup, and then.
Maybe that's what he meant. They're about to win the championship next year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's good goals. That's good goals, and then and hopefully you keep Grealish away from the Red Devils.
Oh man, Grealish needs to come over to MLS in the Dynamo. I'm just saying, that'd be a sweet pickup. But hey guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. We appreciate it. As always, do us a favor, like the stream, share the stream, subscribe to our channel. We definitely would appreciate that for sure.
And also give us a follow on Twitter.
What are our Twitter handles, Mark, since you decided to throw them out there?
Yeah, at Gen Orange Radio. Radio. Yeah, there you go. So I'm sorry. For some reason, no, I'm sorry. I've been dealing with this rodeo cook-off, so I'm like rodeo. You know, at Gin Orange Radio, our Twitter, at Sean Ringrose for Sean, and at Chess Segovia for myself.
And guys, we appreciate it, and hopefully we see you guys Saturday. Let's go Dynamo.
The down.
Oh, great. I did that at the worst time. The song just ended. I had a song in the
You've got to
background.
get
You're playing with power.
Don't talk to me! 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 It's the ways of the underground.